No doubt about it. It's a new world for tech and the Technology Association of Georgia. It has emerged as a world-class membership organization and an engine for economic development for the entire state of Georgia. TAG today, 26,000-plus members, 2,000-plus member companies, 200-plus events per year, and 34 special interest segments of technology called societies. It's an advocate for positive public policy change, working to enact the legislation that will bolster the growth of our technology community, partnering with city, regional, and state chambers of commerce and other great growth-oriented organizations. It's a leader in the technology industry for connecting thought leaders, executives of Fortune 500 companies, investment, government, and civic leaders, as well as service providers and entrepreneurs. Season's greetings, everyone. It's Christmas week 2014, and welcome from the Technology Association of Georgia to our annual year-end edition of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Frank Baia. For nearly a decade, it's been our tradition at this special time of the year to gain the exclusive insights on TAG's present and future as we speak with the President and Chief Executive Officer, Tino Mantella. Since coming to TAG in 2004, Tino has worked with a team of dedicated volunteers and a staff to build a prestigious board of over 60 technology stakeholders, grown membership by more than 500%, and added a series of programs and services that support TAG's vision of educating, informing, and unifying the technology community. From an unprecedented year of growth, success, and fellowship to a new year that begins already in January with the upcoming Society Showcase, then on to the ultimate of technology events of the year as the Georgia Technology Summit and Excalibur Awards. The exciting changes in store for the rapidly growing Premier membership and statewide growth. No doubt, 2014 has been yet another amazing year of accomplishment for TAG, its volunteers, its staff, and for the technology community across Georgia. But get ready, because there's more to come. It's the 2014 Annual Year-End Review as we proudly present the Technology Association of Georgia President and Chief Executive Officer, Tino Mantella. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by Globalspeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. TAG TV and TAG Radio is a service of Globalspeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Tino, welcome to Tech Talk.
Hey, thanks, Frank. It's great to be on with you again.
All you had to do was go to the Georgia Technology Summit for 2014, see someone like Ted Turner, who you haven't seen in almost 7, 8, 10 years from the original Georgia Technology Summit, to know that 2014 had to be a special year. We're going to have fun talking about a lot of the things that you guys have been doing, but I think one of the things over the course of the last several years, for sure, you've crafted, refined, pretty much you've got it down to a science, if you will, and that is the mission and the goals of the organization. Tell us, I know a lot of our listeners not only know it, but practice it every day, but kind of go into a little bit about the goals and the mission.
Well, we've always been interested in two things, connecting the community and also becoming a top 5 state in the nation for technology. So they really do tie nicely together. By connecting the community, when that's done successfully, we drive membership and sponsorship, which gives us the resources to really take on this economic development issue of becoming a top 5 state. So if our listeners see that as the second part of the goal, but really an important part of the goal, then within that we say, well, how are we going to really move the needle on becoming a top 5 state? And we've come up with 5 things, and we have a turbine that is kind of our pictorial view of what the mission looks like, and they include connecting the community, and a lot of that we do through our 34 different special interest groups.
34 special interest groups.
Yeah.
And I can remember when it wasn't even 3 or 4 in the beginning.
Yeah, and we call those our societies, and when we add the right new society, that drives new content and certainly new member opportunities as well. So when all of those groups are humming, which they were this year, they produce over 200 different content-rich meetings which our members can attend, and we had well over 10,000 people attend that, and every year our average attendance goes up. This year we're at about 63 people per meeting. So that's one thing. And then the second is celebration and recognition of best practices. In other words, what's happening great in Georgia, and how can we broadcast that and showcase that? And so that starts with the summit and ends with Excalibur, and there's all kinds of things in between, including the Health IT Summit, the FinTech Symposium, the Diversity Awards, the Marketing Awards. So a lot of the different societies have big events, and then TAG Corporate has some major events. And some of them, as you know, Frank, we recognize the top technology companies, and then others we recognize companies that utilize technology to differentiate their business, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more. And then third is we have doubled down on policy. We call that our influencing goal, and we now have 2 lobbyists that spend their time in the Capitol and meeting with legislators and really pushing key strategic issues that will make Georgia a business-friendly place. So if we figure we can connect the community, we can celebrate with the community, and we can influence government to create and really improve the business policies, the policies and the laws of the state that will support our industry, that will help us to, again, move up the ladder in terms of being a top 5 state, and then also promoting Georgia as a leading technology state. So this year, again, we're closing in on 1 billion media impressions, and that's everything from TAG Radio and TAG TV to our NPR stories and ESPN and the BBC, and anywhere we can pitch an opportunity to promote Georgia. And then finally, workforce, which is always key, because if all those other things are in place and we don't have the right workforce, then we're not going to be able to grow to that level that we need to grow to become a top 5 state. And part of that goes through our TAG Education Collaborative, focuses on motivating students K through 12 to learn about technology, and actually science, technology, engineering, and math, with a hope that they will, more of them will go into a STEM field. So, and then part of that workforce is also things like job boards and job fairs. So that's just sort of a glimpse of the 5 things we look at to move the needle on our Georgia's technology economy.
You know, when you listen to it all at one time, all at one place, it is truly overwhelming, because you truly have built a mosaic. And I can say that over the years, I mean, you might have looked at it where Georgia leads, in a sense, sort of from the bottom up, if you will, looking at some of the verticals and seeing where there was already established core competencies, some opportunities for quote-unquote crossroads or hubs of centers like FinTech and Health IT. But over the course of time, you've taken it from a bottom-up to a top-down. I mean, literally now, with TAG's legislative opportunities and some of the things that they're initiating, some of the things that are happening even in K through 12, Day of Code and some of the other situations where you're literally attacking the opportunity, not attacking the problem, and building this infrastructure with incentives, with legislation, involvement, impact to a degree, without question. And yet the community continues to be one of volunteers, where they keep just standing up and standing up and standing up and saying, what can I do? What can I do? Let's talk a little bit about, before we leave 2014 and start talking about 2015, let's talk about, you mentioned GTS, Georgia Technology Summit, still the premier event of its kind over the year, every year, year in and year out. Excalibur still continues to recognize the people who use technology from a competitive standpoint. But you've added some things. I mentioned the Day of Code. STEM Day has been an unbelievable success. Maybe touch a little bit about that. And now we've got this new thing coming out of the horizon, hackathons. Maybe touch a little bit about your experience with them.
Okay. Well, the STEM Day and Day of Code we do in partnership with our organization that's a 501c3, TAG Education Collaborative. And STEM Day was the idea to create awareness around the opportunities in science, technology, engineering, and math to get students K through 12 to do something in their classroom. This year it was in the month of May, on a particular day in May 10th, I believe it was. And so they participated, and last year we had about 300,000 or so kids participate, and this year we had 620,000. So we it was
and
amazing.
There's not a listener, excuse me for interrupting, but the point has to be made. There's not a listener out there that doesn't remember when STEM was literally a joke. You know, it's a stem of a plant. We don't know what it means. Nobody understood the acronym. And now it's become ubiquitous. And I would say that it's because of the things, not only, but in spite of some of the things that had been happening before, when TAG added its power, its energy, its influence, its volunteers, suddenly the names started to drop all over the place and things started to happen. And certainly the STEM Day is part of that awareness factor without question. I got, again, hats off in so many ways, but that one in particular, I can remember specifically when the acronym I can say it, first came out, and nobody understood it. And now it's a case there isn't anybody that doesn't get it. So excuse me for interrupting, but
no, that's great, and it really has come a long way. And we still have a challenge to get the kids, the students. I shouldn't call them kids because they're young adults, motivated to take on these careers. But I think little by little we're making some progress in that. And Day of Code was another example. The governor just signed a proclamation related to having, and this actually happened all around the world. There were 180-plus countries that participated in Day of Code, but Georgia has jumped in through TAG with both feet, and we ended up with 1,400 schools participating in that, and that's the hour of coding or Day of Coding, where kids participated in programming and coding in an age-specific
It's tough to remember all the numbers, but the numbers were so small as to the actual numbers of people, schools that had computer science, right? I mean, I can't remember, but it was a very small number, and it was the opportunity for a kid who wanted to get involved in something like that, not only to be aware of it, but to be able to take the next step and do something about it if he wanted to.
Well,
go ahead.
We're in the process of trying to work with the governor, and he's been very supportive to get the Board of Education to allow a computer science programming or coding as an elective in a math or science or a foreign language. So that would be a big step because, as you said, there was only 1,000 students at last measure of the 470,000 students in the Georgia public schools that actually participated in to get a credit in the AP classes that were offered in about 100 of the 476 schools in computer science. So it looks like the Board of Education is being very responsive to that, and that'll be great. And then the next step is seeing how we can provide those sorts of opportunities in all the schools in Georgia. So that's all part of our work to drive awareness and encourage students to become engaged and involved with science, technology, engineering, and math, which is a little bit of a tie-in to the question about the hackathon. So some of the listeners I found as I've gone around now the state and talked about hackathons, you get people that look at you like they're not sure what you're talking about, and others that have been there, done that. But hackathons is something new, and I like to say it's hacking for good, opportunities for programmers and coders to come together to do something to support either a nonprofit or a company with great ideas. A lot of times it ties into developing apps, but not only apps. It can be really any kind of development where you bring people together. So you and I have talked before, Frank, about this shared economy or sharing economy where now groups of people can come together and do so much more than sometimes hiring a firm that's going to take 6 months to a year and charge a substantial amount of money to develop, let's say, code for a particular new project. That's still valuable. We're not saying don't go to these companies, but also there's another answer sometimes in terms of bringing people together. And we've done them now with programs for the Food Bank and also the American Cancer Society, Points of Light, the Boys and Girls Club of America, and on the for-profit side, we've done it something with Global Payments that you and I participated in together. And all of those opportunities have been great and good feedback, and there's actually been some tremendous outcomes. So now we've decided, TAG has decided to make this a line of business for 2015. So any listener that would like a hackathon put on for their company or for their nonprofit, the Technology Association of Georgia would be happy to be a supporter of that and a provider of a lot of the services that are required to put those on successfully.
One of the themes that came out several years ago that, I guess, a local hero, we began to identify clusters and began to see them as, quote-unquote, where Georgia leads. I think we ought to have a category as where TAG leads, because when TAG says STEM and you never heard about it, get ready, because you're going to have it. You're going to hear a lot about it. When TAG says code, day of coding, it's kind of like, oh, that's cutesy, going to be the next big thing. I'm saying that hackathons, it's almost like you and I are just about old enough to remember Carmack and Johnny Carson, and he used to open up the envelope and he'd say the answer is hackathon. Let's see if in 2015 we don't talk about hackathons and that they become a mainstay yet again from the standpoint of TAG just lining it up like Babe Ruth and say, I'm not just going to hit a home run, I'm going to hit it right over there. Well, we're going to quickly run out of time because we've got so much to cover. Let's talk a little bit about upcoming new year. And touch upon some of the important initiatives that TAG's working on.
Well, let's start with what we were talking about at the beginning, because that's a staple for us each year, and that's the Georgia Technology Summit on March 25th. We already have a top speaker from Tesla coming in, and also a seasoned professor that's going to knock people's socks off from MIT, and we're in the midst of selecting a Hall of Fame finalists through PwC's activities. They already have narrowed it down to 3 people. And then, of course, there's in the process of selecting the top 40 innovative technology companies. So there's sponsorships available and tables available for people listening in, and hopefully you'll sign up and participate in that, and it'll be the largest event. Again, I'm sure with 1,400 or more people. In addition to that, we really have going to kick off the year as we typically do with our society showcase, and this is where every society sets up a booth. Last year we had over 1,000 people come in, and they visit the booths. We have some fun with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, and really it's Mardi Gras themed this year, so it's going to be a fun atmosphere, and we hope that people will come to that and learn about. It's a great place to learn about societies, and also to learn how our members can participate in those societies by serving on a board or being a speaker on a panel. So that's going to be a significant thing. And really throughout the year, between the signature events, on the legislative side, we're going to do a fly-in to Washington, D.C., and bring a number of executives there to talk to our congressmen and senators related to issues of importance for the technology industry. So it's going to be another banner year, we're sure. We already have sponsors.
Golf tournaments, Tacky 5K, the fellowship aspects where the team development is another factor that I think is crucially important. You've built out a real community in the sense, when I think of the GTS on one side, it's almost like going to an alumni party back at college or something and seeing friends that you may not have seen or making contact because they're in their vertical, you're in yours, and you don't really get a chance to see them. But now it's a case where the audience is getting younger, a lot more dynamic. A lot of the generations, whatever they are, millenniums, X's, and Y's, are beginning to realize. We were at an event just recently, I mentioned it to you, that several of the young people that were there, and I mean extremely young, that were cutting-edge programmers, cutting-edge open innovation sourcing that we've talked about. Everyone, there were like 4 of them, and each one of them contacted. I live off of TAG's communications. I watch TAG's emails. I can't wait to see what TAG is up to because I know it's going to be something that I need to be part of or I should learn from. And that's just, it just defies success. I mean, the bottom line is you can put numbers on it in terms of growth, but you really can't quantify the impact of the quality of the development that's happened as a quote-unquote community. I mean, all of the mosaic has come together, and now the pieces are beginning to fit just about perfectly. And I can say that from 2014 going into 2015, we've commented several things: STEM Day, Day of Code, hackathons, GTS, Excalibur, and all of the others that you mentioned. We touched upon legislative initiatives, the coding and now post-production tax credits and data center incentives and cyber study committee. The hackathon is a private and non-profit organization. Truly, it is where Georgia leads, but I'll have to end our conversation quickly because we're running out of time. But the bottom line of it is, it really is where TAG leads. And Tino, thank you so much for you get a lot of accolades. I know you do, but the reality of the situation is there's some things that people say because of being polite. There's other things because the bottom line is that the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the performance, and you made things happen. So congratulations on all your success. Congratulations on TAG. And really, thank you for allowing us to play a role in supporting your initiatives and for taking time to kind of, as we often say, turn the chair around and spend a little time with us here on Tech Talk talking about the technology community. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, Frank, thanks a lot, and it's a pleasure to be partners again with Globalspeak. I think it's been almost 10 years since I started, and all of those 10 years it's been great to be partnering with you and with Globalspeak, and looking forward to another great 2015. And I want to thank all the listeners who are members and participants in TAG for the role that you play. So thank you, Frank.